So today I'm looking at the Kirov, the wonderful Tier 5 Kirov. A cruiser with incredible guns. Let's have a look at the armor layout. She's got 30mm front plating, not so great. 18mm side plating, again, not so great. She's got a 50mm armor belt to cover her citadel, which is very long and sits amidships. And on the back, we've got a 13mm bottom, so she's fairly squishy. Bear that in mind, she is a squishy ship. Her guns are pretty long range, 16.3 kilometers, so you see the playstyle. You stand off and you snipe. And they have good trajectories. They're a tiny bit floaty, but I'll show you in a bit. I will take her for a spin and I'll explain the gun vectors and how she rolls. But she's a good cruiser. She's a good cruiser. She has reasonable maneuverability. She's pretty quick, 37.3 knots with a speed flag. Concealment could be better, 12.4 kilometers, which is somewhere sort of heavy cruiser levels. But then she has got 180mm guns to offset that. Okay, so let's have a look at the equipment. Now, always a good pick. However, she does have spotter planes, and if you want to buff the spotter planes, you have the option with spotting aircraft modification 1, of course, which increases the action time. If you're going with a spotter plane build on the captain, then this module is kind of compulsory, because it adds a lot of value to the time you have to use the spotter plane, especially if you're standing off, because as you saw from the armor profile, she is a bit weak, bit papery. Yeah, the armor is very thin. Here I went with engine room protection, but you can buff our hydro, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. Hydro is very useful for spotting torpedoes, ships and submarines, so yeah, ships in smoke and submarines. I think this is compulsory for the railguns to ensure their dispersion is nice and tight. Aiming system modification 1, I would recommend that over everything else on this tree. For captain skills, incoming fire alert, so you can be warned every time someone fires at your ship, so you can take avoiding action. Then it's a question of priority target for more information about how many people are targeting you, whether they're torpedoing you, etc. Or demolition expert, or both. Because the guns are so good, the fire chances are reasonable, around 14%. This increases that to 15%. It's decent. It increases the radius of the explosions against submarines as well. It's a reasonable pick. And then on this line, Superintendent, Adrenaline Rush, and then I would recommend Survivability Expert. And then on this line, the 4-point skill line, Concealment Expert is an absolute must, because she's a bit like a battleship. Her concealment isn't great, so she needs Concealment Expert to bring that in line. Okay, once you've made those picks, you have a few choices to make. You could add heavy HE and sap shells to really get the maximum out of those 180mm guns. You could also maybe go for Eye in the Sky instead of one of these. You could take priority target instead, for instance. You could have two 2-point skills, in other words. You could have priority target, demolition expert, or Eye in the Sky, demolition expert. Or you could drop demolition expert, and because the fire chances on the guns are pretty decent anyway. And you could take Eye in the Sky and priority target. Depends on how you want to play her. But Eye in the Sky, totally worth it. Totally worth it after the buffs it received. She's got torpedoes, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's a typical sort of point-blank range torpedoes that are there just to discourage people getting too close to you. 4-kilometer range. She has depth charges that dump out of the back. No ASW for you. AA defense is pretty mediocre, really. I wouldn't rely on that too much. And her maneuverability, rudder shift, turning circles 860 millimeters, rudder shift, relatively responsive, 7.8 seconds. Not great, but not terrible either. Okay, let's take her for a spin. So we're in the kirov. And what can I say that I haven't already said about this ship? She's fast, but I think I said that. We're in a game. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you a bit about a match. We've got a couple of battleships aside, 6 cruisers aside, and 3 destroyers aside. And those CVs are tier 4. It's a tier 5 match, so it's on my tier, which will hopefully give me a chance to show off what this ship is really capable of. Alright, I'm going to head over to A, and I'm going to work with our T-22 and our 2 Arme Severa and the Moltke battleship. So there'll be 3 cruisers, 1 destroyer and 1 battleship for us to contest A with. As you can see, because I've got a detectability of 12.4, I'm keeping my distance. In fact, you see that island in front of me? I'm going to be using that island a lot. The idea is to use it for concealment purposes and to hide behind when things start getting a little bit out of hand. We're lit. And there's a Kuma. As you can see, pretty accurate guns, right? I took a quick pot shot at the Kuma, nothing particularly special, and I managed to get 4 hits. 3 overpens and 1 pen, just off the bat. Now I'm opening up the Severa. Spanish cruiser. Tier 5. And there's our first Citadel. There's a slightly floaty aspect to the shells, but it's minimal. These 180mm guns are really very good. There you go. Boom. Another Citadel. And you see the railguns in action.
Торпеды справа по борту.
Omaha. I don't think those are going to hit. He slowed down and turned away. So Konigsberg. Hey. Pop the spotter so I can see over the island. As you can see, I'm using that island as best I can. Okay, my team got that guy. Cool. There's the Omaha, staying out of range. We do have a destroyer on our flank. And I'm switching to HE. Let's see if I can get some fires on the Derflinger. See what we can do. Couple of hits, no fires. And he's returning fire. But I don't think he's firing at me. I think he's firing at the Koenig. Yeah. So me and Koenig, we're going to cap A for the team. Got a fire going. And 5 hits. But yeah, you see, he hardly looked at me. He took one shot and I lost about 5k health. This is my point with this ship. You do have to be careful. She is made of paper. I say 5k, actually it was 4. Just under 4, about 3,800. Not so bad. Someone's shooting at me again. The Derflinger again, of course. So we weave to avoid most of it. Yeah, good. And again, I'm moving up to this island with a view to using it to protect myself from the unwanted attentions of the Omaha and the Derflinger. But things are getting interesting, because above me is their Mitsuki. It's just thrown some torpedoes my way. So we're just going to pay him a visit. Now, don't be afraid to take destroyers on in this ship. Her guns are excellent. You do have those short-range torpedoes that I mentioned in the guide at the start. And we should make fairly short work of this guy. There you go. First burst. Over 5k damage. There we go. Now one more hit. Okay. Carrier's decided to join in. And boom, one dead Mitsuki. Pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, so again, I want to be positioning myself to put that island between me and the Derflinger, so that I can stay concealed. Because my concealment is terrible, as you can see. If that island wasn't there, he'd be able to spot me right now. That's something you need to be aware of constantly, is the fact that you're very easy to spot. So we got some good hits on him with the HE shells. Going in again. He's speeded up. Still got 6 shells into him, 4 penetrations. And remaining concealed because I'm using the island. She's quite a maneuverable ship though, she's quite fast, and that's very useful for getting out of trouble. But you really do need to use your minimap quite a lot. I've been constantly looking at mine to see where the problems or potential problems are going to come from. Okay, he seems to be turning. And I'm reacting to his maneuvers by firing my turrets one at a time. Slow down. He's slowing down a lot. So, the battleship player is messing around with his speed and at the same time weaving like a boss. He's under a lot of pressure. He's down to 11k health, so let's help with that. You never know, we might get him. Just using this island to keep myself hidden. No need to take any risks. Okay, we should have him now. Yep. Okay, good. Alright. Yeah, so they've got a carrier, 2 cruisers, and a destroyer up. As you can see, the carrier and the cruiser and the destroyer are all down at D, and the Omaha has somehow managed to get itself cornered. Or it's cornering itself, actually. I don't think anyone's putting too much pressure on it. Our Omaha is firing it in a long-range duel, so I will move up to assist with that. Now that the heat's off me, and A is very much secure. And yes, do use the AP on this ship. If they're showing flat broadside to you, and they're within about 10 kilometers and they're a cruiser, you're going to get citadels. In fact, sometimes you get citadels at longer ranges than those. Depends on the cruiser, whether it's a light or a heavy, and depending on its armor layout. But always worth using the AP on this ship. The HE is strong as well, but the AP, if there's an opportunity, use it. Don't be afraid to switch. Fine looking ship. If a little scorched. Okay. 16.3 kilometer range, you see. There's not many cruisers that can say that at this tier. Of course, with the plane, you can add another 20% to that. So you can almost shoot to, let me see, 3.2, 16.3, 19.5, almost 20 kilometers. There's the Yamaha, just finish him off. And a little faster than I thought. Yeah, those look good. Those look good. Yep. Another citadel. And that's the match for us. This has been For the Love of Tier 5, sailing in the Kirov. My name's Lone Gun. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
If I lose it all, slip and fall, will you laugh at me? If I lose it all